I never imagined my grandmother's 75th birthday would be a quiet, empty day. But there she was, Evelyn sitting alone in her cozy little house in Charleston, the same home she'd filled with warmth and stories for decades. She had baked her cake, set the table for 10, and lit every single candle on it by herself. The soft glow flickered against the pale walls, but there was no laughter, no voices, no footsteps to break the silence. I found out about it only hours later, too late to stop the quiet unraveling. My phone buzzed at the office with a terse message from my mother. Carol, plans changed. Don't bother coming. I stared at those words as if they might change if I read them again. A bracelet sat on my desk, delicate hand-painted and personalized for Grandma Evelyn. I'd ordered it weeks ago, wanting this birthday to be special. But now it felt useless. I tried calling Mom, but she didn't answer. Of course not. She hated confrontation. The clock on the wall ticked away the minutes, each one closer to 6 p.m., the hour Evelyn's birthday dinner was supposed to start. 10 people. That's all she wanted. A simple gathering, a small celebration. I sent a quick text to Evelyn, "I'll be there after work." Her voice came through moments later, soft and hesitant. "Don't bother, sweetheart. It's just me here." I could hear the tremor, the thin crack in her usual steady tone. "Everyone else. They're not coming." I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping the floor. No explanation. No apologies. Just a brittle laugh like glass cracking under pressure. I thought about the pink embroidered napkins. She always used the ones that said family first, and how the dining chairs, never enough for everyone, were all lined up waiting for guests who would never arrive. The worst blow hit when I opened Instagram. There they were, a carousel of photos, posted just an hour before Mom and my brothers, their wives, my aunts, all dressed in white champagne glasses, raised against the endless blue of the Mediterranean Sea. Caption: "Family time is precious." I dropped my phone. They hadn't canceled. They'd lied. Evelyn hadn't been forgotten, she'd been abandoned. Something inside me shattered. My promotion dinner was scheduled for that night, a moment I'd looked forward to for months. But that night, I tore up the invitation without a word, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to her house. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles burned. This wasn't about me anymore. Evelyn deserved better. I pulled onto her street just as twilight melted into night. Porch lights flickered up and down the block, but hers stayed dark. The heavy silence in her home wrapped around me as I stepped inside. Through the kitchen window, I saw her seated upright at the table, surrounded by empty chairs and a melting cake. She didn't see me watching. I wiped my face, trying to swallow the lump growing in my throat. Then I knocked softly and stepped in. "Don't come, Celine," she whispered when she looked up. "Too late," I said, pulling out a chair and sitting down like I belonged. For a moment, there was no need to speak. The smell of vanilla cake lingered, mingling with the weight of the empty room. Evelyn looked smaller, somehow worn down by more than age. I cut a slice of cake and placed it in front of her. "Happy birthday, Grandma." Her lips curved faintly. "You didn't have to come." I took a bite, forcing myself to eat, even though my stomach churned. The silence stretched between us, letting air before a storm. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Where are they, Grandma? Where is it?" Her fork creaked gently as she said it. She looked at me, wilting flowers by the window. Her voice was thin, almost whispered. I blinked, unsure I could. She rubbed her hands together slowly, as if trying to wash something off her skin. "Your mother said it would be a family healing trip. She said I wouldn't enjoy it. Too much walking, too loud." My stomach dropped. She'd paid for the very cruise they were on while leaving her behind. Every smiling face in those photos, every champagne toast, it was all funded by Evelyn. Betrayal twisted deep inside me. I remembered suddenly a childhood moment. I was maybe 10 years old, standing in the corner at Thanksgiving. Mom introduced me to a distant cousin as the extra one. No shame, no apology, just a fact like saying the sky was blue. But then Evelyn had pulled me aside, slipped a handmade bracelet into my hand, and whispered, "Being last means you're the surprise." Now across the table, she wore that same bracelet frayed and loose. She'd never taken it off. "I canceled my promotion dinner tonight," I told her softly. She looked at me confused. "I was supposed to celebrate with my team, but I couldn't let you sit here alone." Her lips trembled, the smallest smile breaking through the sadness. "You didn't ruin anything." As I looked around the room, I thought about every step I'd taken to prove myself to a family that only noticed me when they needed favors or money. What was I holding on to? What was left to hope for? My eyes landed on an old wooden box tucked behind the side table. It was dusty and locked, but it seemed important. When I asked, Evelyn brushed it off quickly, saying it was just old things. But something about it wouldn't let me forget. I knelt, pulling the box toward me. The latch was stuck from years of disuse. A firm tug and it creaked open, revealing yellowed papers and one sealed envelope. My heart pounded as I carefully pulled out the envelope. In my grandfather's handwriting on the front was "Last Will." "Grandma, what's this?" I asked, holding it up. Her face went pale. "I forgot," she whispered. "You forgot your husband's will." She shook her head helplessly. I hid it. The weight of that confession hit me hard. "Why?" "They said you didn't need the burden," she said. "That you had your own life." I felt my jaw clench. They hadn't just stolen from her, they'd stolen from me too. Evelyn broke down, covering her face with trembling hands. "I didn't want you to hate me," she whispered. I stared at her, torn between anger and sorrow, unsure who I hated more, my mother or the grandmother who had called herself my ally. That night I sat quietly beside her, holding her fragile hand as the first cracks of dawn filtered through the window. Morning came slowly, bringing with it a quiet stillness that settled over Evelyn's house like a soft fog. The unopened birthday cards lined up along the mantel caught my eye, years of greetings never read, stacked like forgotten memories. I sat there absorbing the silence, feeling how little of Evelyn's life filled this space. It was her house, but it didn't feel like home anymore. I poured myself a bitter cup of coffee, my hands trembling as I held the mug. Exhaustion and fury battled inside me, neither strong enough to take over completely. Then I reached for my phone and dialed the number I dreaded, my mother, Carol. The phone rang longer than it should have before her syrupy voice answered. "Well, look who's alive. Thought you'd be too busy celebrating that promotion." I stayed silent, listening to her fake sweetness. Then I asked, steady but sharp, "Where's Grandma's house deed, Mom?" Her tone shifted, colder now. "Honey, she's old. You know how confused she gets. You've seen her." "I'm taking care of her." I pressed harder. "She trusted you. What did you make her sign?" Carol sighed, her patience thinning. "It's complicated. Paperwork, taxes. She never wanted to sign anything. Don't let her drag you down." I hung up, my heart pounding with a cold rage I couldn't shake. It wasn't confusion, it was strategy. Every excuse, every gentle dismissal was calculated. I set my phone down slowly, unsure of my next move. I stepped outside into the neighborhood. The lawns were neat, fences chipped, wind chimes tinkling in the soft breeze. I knocked on doors, seeking answers. Mrs. Peterson, 2 houses down, was the first to open. "I'm sorry about your grandmother," she said quietly. "What do you mean? We thought it was safer that way. Your mother said she wasn't managing well." At every house the same story echoed, people who had helped erase Evelyn's presence, convinced by my mother's version of the truth. Even strangers had been complicit. By noon, I found myself sitting on a porch step, staring blankly ahead. I could fly back to Chicago, leave it all behind, pretend it wasn't my problem. But whose problem was it, if not mine? Evelyn wasn't confused, and I wasn't absent. I was angry. Later that day, I stood in the bank lobby, clutching the heavy envelope of documents I'd pulled from the old box. The air smelled of printer paper and stale coffee. I wasn't there to open a savings account. I was there to reclaim what had been stolen. The teller, a polite woman, sifted through the papers with practiced ease. You're listed here as co-owner, she said softly. Would you like to update the communication address? I nodded firmly. I gave her my address signed to remove my mother, Vera Sheridan, from all permissions. The teller looked up with understanding. Good. Someone's finally protecting her. I walked out into the Houston morning feeling a strange steadiness I hadn't known in months. That afternoon, back at Evelyn's house, I found her resting in her recliner. The soft hiss of the oxygen machine was the only sound breaking the stillness. I sat beside her, papers spread across my lap. Her breathing was shallow but steady, and for a moment I simply watched her, feeling the weight of the fight ahead. My phone buzzed and I saw the caller ID, Vera, my mother. I didn't answer. Instead, I listened to the voicemail later, her voice cold and calm, a warning wrapped in false concern. You'll regret this, Celine. I promise you will. I felt no fear, just a cold clarity. I didn't regret standing up for Evelyn. I regretted thinking it would be easy. The next morning, a formal summons arrived. Vera was contesting the emergency guardianship I had filed, wanting it overturned. Her name was on the petition. The weight of it crushed me briefly, but beneath that, a fierce determination took root. I drove to Evelyn's house without thinking. She was sitting by the window, her cardigan buttoned unevenly, slippers mismatched. Grandma, I said softly. Her eyes fluttered open. Oh, my little girl, she whispered and squeezed my hand. That touch steeled my resolve. The courtroom was cold and unforgiving. Vera sat with a polished smirk, immaculate and composed. She didn't acknowledge Evelyn or me as we entered. Vera's testimony painted Evelyn as fragile and confused, a woman unable to care for herself, and me as the outsider meddling in family matters. But when Evelyn was called to the stand, something unexpected happened. She looked lost at first, bewildered by the strange room. But then she saw me, and her eyes cleared for a moment. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. The judge's voice cut through the quiet. He ruled that guardianship remain with me, his tone sharp as he addressed Vera. What you did borders on exploitation. Vera rose, fury blazing in her posture, and stormed out without a word. Outside, the courthouse relatives and neighbors gathered quietly. Melissa, my cousin from Oregon, stepped forward. You did what none of us had the courage to, she said softly. I said nothing. My throat was raw, my heart heavy. That night, after tucking Evelyn into bed, I found an anonymous letter slipped through the door. It was from Vera, no apologies, only bitterness and envy, admitting she never felt loved or wanted. I folded the letter quietly and tucked it away, feeling a deep sadness settle inside me. Evelyn didn't remember the court visit the next day. She called me Mom, and I didn't correct her. I started removing Vera's decorations from the house, photos, staged family pictures she'd displayed to claim control. I replaced them with real memories, old pictures of Grandpa Evelyn, young and radiant, and one I'd never seen before, me as a child missing my front teeth, standing awkwardly beside Evelyn. That photo now hangs above the fireplace, a quiet testament to the family I choose to keep. In the days and weeks that followed, the phone calls began, cousins, old neighbors, people who had stayed silent before now, checking in quietly. They didn't mention Vera, but their words carried the weight of understanding and apology. I answered cautiously, unsure if I could trust the change. Months passed without drama. No more courtroom battles, no angry messages. Vera faded from our lives, whether from shame or defeat, I didn't know. The silence left was heavy, but it was peace. One evening, I planned a small dinner, not the grand celebration I'd canceled months ago, but something quieter. A few close colleagues, 2 cousins who had stood by me, and Evelyn herself. There were no speeches, no toasts, just a soft candlelight and gentle laughter. Evelyn spooned small bites of chocolate cake, her eyes bright for once. She didn't know why we were celebrating, but she laughed when the server lit a candle, thinking it was for her. I let her believe it. Later that night, after tucking Evelyn into bed, I stood alone in the kitchen. The house was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint scent of vanilla from the cake. I lit a small birthday candle, not for me, not even for that dinner, but for Evelyn. Happy birthday, Grandma. I whispered the words soft as a breath. In that silence, I finally understood something I hadn't before. I didn't win a battle or prove a point. I found peace not by chasing love from those who never gave it, but by choosing to protect the love that remained the quiet, steady love of family of Evelyn. She was the one who never stopped waiting even when everyone else walked away. And now I would be there. Evelyn's 75th birthday was meant to be a simple family gathering, but instead she spent it alone, her family choosing a luxury cruise over celebrating with her a cruise Evelyn herself had paid for. Her granddaughter Celine learns the heartbreaking truth too late, feeling the sharp sting of betrayal from those closest to Evelyn. As she drives to her grandmother's house, Celine confronts the cold reality of years of neglect and lies masked as concern and family healing. In Evelyn's quiet home, surrounded by empty chairs and a melting cake, Celine discovers not just loneliness, but hidden secrets, an old locked box revealing Evelyn's rightful inheritance kept from her by manipulative family members. Despite her mother's excuses and attempts to dismiss Evelyn's declining health as confusion, Celine sees the calculated betrayal beneath the surface. Determined to protect her grandmother, Celine takes legal action, facing opposition and courtroom battles with a steely resolve. At the hearing, Evelyn's brief moments of clarity expose the truth, and the judge condemns the exploitation she has suffered. Though the fight is painful and exhausting, Celine's loyalty never wavers. In the quiet aftermath, Celine rebuilds the pieces of Evelyn's life, restoring real family memories and creating new bonds with those who truly care. She finds peace not in winning a court case, but in choosing love that doesn't demand proof or perfection, love that patiently waits even when abandoned. Through sorrow, anger, and fierce determination, Celine learns that family isn't always about blood or appearances. Sometimes it's about being the one who shows up when it matters most. And for Evelyn, that someone is finally here,